Hi everyone, Autumn here. Today I wanted to talk about why it is so difficult to trust after a narcissistic relationship. I'm sitting out here. This is basically my front yard. I live in Chicago, right on the lake on the south side in Hyde Park, and every morning I like to come out here and meditate and do some work um, before working out and going to work. So I'm going to start doing my videos out here in the morning. It's so peaceful and that's so nice. Um, so today I was thinking about this. So I recently had a narcissistic relationship myself, which I've done a lot of videos about, or I'm doing some videos on. And in going through that experience of having a relationship um, with a narcissist has changed my perspective on a lot of things, both good and maybe not so good. But it's definitely impacted me a lot. I'm still in the recovery process. I feel I'm not quite in the place where I can fully see the positive, but it's definitely made me see things differently. It's made me have a different uh, focus in my work and even in my life. Um, and one of the things that I've noticed as the months go by and I start to think about dating or actually start to date, and that's a whole nother story, but is why it is so difficult um, to trust. I've never been had these type of trust issues before. The trust issues, and I've noticed this with other people who have gone through relationships with narcissists, that it's it's an atypical type of trust issue because it's very pervasive and it goes beyond just romantic relationships. Um, for example, I had had a long-term relationship in my 20s where my ex-boyfriend had cheated on me, and that built some trust issues that I brought with me, but not like this. This is a whole different thing, and I've talked to a lot of people. The relationship after a relationship with a narcissist, the trust issues are very pervasive, and they're applied towards all of the people almost in your life, especially the first few months after the relationship. You start to question the legitimacy of friends, coworkers, and other people you encounter, and of course in dating. And so I started to think about, why is this? What does what happens with a narcissist exactly? And maybe if you are starting to feel these trust issues and you're in a relationship but you're not sure if you're with a narcissist, this might help clarify a little bit as well. I think one of the reasons that we have such a difficult time trusting after a narcissistic relationship is because our partner, the narcissist or the sociopath, the partner who had a cluster B personality disorder, they one of the ways they manipulated us is through hope. This is almost universal. There's that saying that hope dies last, and there's a video that Narcissist Support did where she talks about a narcissist saying this, and this type of mentality, this mentality that hope dies last, um, with most people that would be with a narcissist. So we're usually empaths, maybe have some codependent traits or codependence, definitely sensitive, caring people that are pretty in touch with our spiritual selves. Um, we tend to live a lot of our life on the idea of hope and what is going to be, and that things are going to be positive, and that love is going to prevail. And the narcissist tends to prey on this and use this as a manipulation tool. I know that my ex-narcissist did. Whenever anything was going wrong or he was acting out in bad behavior, whenever I wanted to get out of the relationship, I would go to break up with him a lot of times, I don't know, every 6-7 weeks sometimes, because of the detachment he had with intimacy, even though he had, copped to some of his issues from childhood and we were going to therapy. There was so much intimacy issues. Now that I know he's a narcissist, because the therapist who saw us diagnosed him and he fits basically every criteria, it all makes sense, but at the time it didn't. And so he would hand out hope as charity and as a manipulation tool to get me to stay. It was also a manipulation tool to keep me having good behavior. So regardless of what his behavior was, he would offer me the plans for tomorrow. He would offer me the hope of what is going to be. He would tell me with words, not so much with the actions. See, that's part of the problem with the narcissist, right? Their actions and their words very rarely, if ever, align. But that's another video. But he would say with his words about how things are going to be. And this idea of a better tomorrow, once he gets over his issues, once we were through the immigration paperwork, or once we moved, or once whatever it was going to be, once we went through therapy, at the end of the relationship, we took a 30-day break. It was more my criteria for the relationship, but I could tell he was checking out too. Of course, he told me after this 30-day break, I'll go to therapy, and putting the correct amount of blame on me, which I now see really I wasn't at fault. So yeah, there is this idea of hope. Another reason is because obviously we trusted them, and that should be pretty obvious, but I think being betrayed at such a fundamental level, many of us had narcissists that lied and cheated at the very least, right? I mean, I almost feel like that's the very least. A lot of narcissist partners did a lot worse than that. I've heard a lot of stories, and even with me, not coming through on very big life things, doing things that got people into big legal trouble, problems with their children. I mean, the list goes, leaving them when they're in the throes of a serious illness. I mean, the list goes on and on. When we trust someone, even if it was manufactured trust, because the reality is, if you're really honest with yourself and you look back at your relationship with the narcissist, you will see that they gave you virtually no reason to trust them other than the fact that they said that you can trust them. And I look back and I see now, not only did he not win my trust, he actually did things that I should have not trusted him. But again, I listened to his words. They are master manipulators. And again, I, for better or for worse, I'm a fairly empathic person, and I'm a bit of a forgiver, and I always see the good in people. And I would always see the good in him and give him the benefit of the doubt, the benefit of my trust. So when you trust someone and they betray you on such massive levels, it's a shock to your system. And it really makes you rethink your entire perspective about the world almost. About people, about what the world means. There's something weird that has happened to me too. It's not just with people, it's almost like with my perception. Because how could I be so wrong? I trusted this man so much. And then I see all of the things that came out that he was doing. I never really have gotten a lot of confirmation from him, but I know for a fact that he lied and cheated, and there was a lot of it. At the very least, he lied in terms of his commitment to me, and he left when he said he wouldn't, and he made all promises he never kept. And it really makes you rethink your entire perspective of yourself. Can you trust your own perspective? I find myself questioning even my perspective on just the world, looking at this water right now, thinking, what is real? People I encounter, who is real? And almost going too deep into this idea of what is real, who is real, what does everything mean? Because when you live with a narcissist, you live with a fake reality. A fake reality of what your life is. They're gaslighting you. They're painting a false picture of who they are. They're painting a false picture of who you are in their life. And that bleeds into you, yourself, questioning your own perspective of who you are. So when you get out of that relationship, when the mask is unveiled, when all the lies or some of the lies and cheating and manipulations start to come out, and then when you see how they act when they discard you, who is this person, right? Who is this person? I had had many long-term relationships end, many, like 3 or 4, from the time I was 18. You know, I met my ex-narcissist when I was 34. I'm almost 36 now. We're together for a little over a year. And we got married. So that put another thing in the mix. Very fast, we got married. Very fast, as most narcissists do. And for a reason. He needed a green card. And I thought we were in love. But that's another video. Yeah, so I think that I look back at my other relationships. And even when there was some deceit or betrayal, it was never like this. I knew that person, and they felt remorseful. I could feel the remorse. My ex-boyfriend, Alex, when I found out in our 3rd year together, when we were or going into our 4th year, I think it was, we were going to get married, and we decided to go to couples therapy to learn to communicate better, kind of premarital therapy, and then it came out that our entire 1st year together, he had been cheating on me. He wasn't a narcissist. He was just a really big player, I think, for so long, and obviously he was a liar, but he never tried to deny stuff. You know, I never got this. He felt remorseful. He was still Alex. People can cheat and not be narcissists. People can lie and not be narcissists, right? It's the motivation behind it. And it's the glib manner in which they have no empathy about how it impacted you. And it's the ease of which they go about not honoring their word. And while you were in the relationship, I know for me this was true, I constantly, every time my ex-husband would say something to me, I would have to think, I wonder if he's going to do that. I wonder if he's going to come through. My car would break down, he wouldn't answer his phone. I had no one to help me. Or he would promise he would be somewhere at a certain time. It was important. He wouldn't show up. Now, sometimes he would. Sometimes he was the best husband, boyfriend in the world for a week or 2. So you never knew. And that started to play into the whole gaslighting thing that they were doing to you in general, and not honoring their word and having this inconsistent reinforcement of believing them and them honoring their word makes you so uncertain about who you can trust, who is for real, who is honest, even before you find out these huge lies, or before they leave you or you have to leave them and all of the masks start to come off. So if you're having trouble trusting after a narcissistic relationship, know that this is so common. I started to work with my clients. I've been focusing a little bit more on people who have gotten out of toxic relationships and focusing on cluster B personality disorder, because this experience has shifted a lot of me, both personally and professionally, and people I've talked to in support groups. And it's very common to have these trust issues. What can we do about them? I don't really know. I wish I knew, right? Because it's so pervasive. I can give you a long list of things that I tell my clients we talk about, and maybe I'll make a video on that. There's definitely things you can do, practical things you can do. There's a lot of spiritual, concepts that you can manifest. There's a lot of ideologies you can adopt, modes of thinking, blah, 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 right? But at the end of the day, I think what we have to do is we have to process the pain and the hurt that was done by the narcissist. We have to somehow let go of it, however long it takes. Whatever type of therapy or healing modality we need to do, have enough of it that we can let go. And then we need to, I think the number one thing, most of us that got into a relationship with a narcissist got there because of the type of people we are. And I say this in a good way. Most of us are really great people. We're trusting, we're loving, and we're kind. We place honesty at the pedestal. We love love. We want things that are good. We don't want to fight. We want to make other people happy. And because of this, we tend to have trust be our default. We tend to trust immediately instead of make people earn it. So we tend to trust until they prove that they're not trustworthy. The problem with that, even though ideally, this is my empath side, this is my sensitive romantic side. It's hard for me not to be like that because that's just who I am. But see, when you think of the practicality of that, what happens is this invites manipulators. It just invites them in because it says, hey, look, here's a shining beacon, a sign that says, come here, this person will trust you automatically and you can get stuff out of them and you can use them. And they'll keep trusting you until they uncover your lies. I mean, that's basically what it is. So the number one thing as we go back into the dating world and even in our personal relationships, in our life in general, I think that we all, as sad as this makes me feel to say it because I am